It is officially football season, at least in my mind. It is August the 3rd, which for me at least is kind of the start of football season where we kind of point our interest in the football area and start talking more about the upcoming season. Of course, we've been talking high school football for several weeks here on 41 NBC with Coach's Corner. The first end zone is next week. Georgia Tech back at practice today. Georgia will be back at practice on Wednesday. And of course, the Falcons started last week. So, yes, football season is here, even though it's still very hot outside. With Georgia and Georgia Tech, there's a lot of excitement about, of course, some very important players for these two football teams. For Georgia Tech, Alberto Mendoza is going to be one to watch, the brother of the Heisman Trophy winner, who, of course, was the first overall pick in the draft. And Fernando led Indiana to a very special season a year ago. But Alberto, his backup last year at Indiana, is stepping into the role as the starting quarterback for Georgia Tech. Of course, they also have a very good running back coming in from the transfer portal, Justice Haynes, whose dad played at Georgia, but he, of course, is at Alabama, then Michigan, and now he's at Georgia Tech and could be a very, very good football player for Brent Key this year. As for Georgia, well, it's Gunnar Stockton. Everybody's going to be watching Gunnar Stockton to see what he can do in his second season as the starting quarterback. You know, we saw when Stetson Bennett and then Carson Beck had their second year, we saw improvement. Now what are we going to see from Gunnar Stockton? What kind of improvements are we going to have? And look, he's going to have a lot of new receivers on this team. Players are going to have to step up and become more important parts of this offense with Branch and some of the others that are gone. So that's going to be very, very crucial to this football team, is the cohesiveness and chemistry that Gunnar Stockton can have between himself and the receivers, and of course that tight end room, which is probably the best in the country. There's no question that Georgia has perhaps the best tight ends in the entire country. So that's going to be something to watch. The Georgia defense, of course, has a chance to be very special. That's going to be very interesting to see how they do. Of course, Ellis Robinson, I think, is going to be a very important part of that defense in the secondary. Elijah Griffin in his second year could be a star. So Kirby Smart always loves teams that have great defenses, since he's a defensive coach, so you know that'll be at the forefront of his practices here in the month of August. The Falcons continue to kind of wait on their quarterback situation with Tua Tagovailoa not healthy and waiting on that back to get better. We're seeing a little bit of video of Michael Penix out there at practice in Flowery Branch, but not with 11 on 11, mainly for 7 on 7, and kind of being very cautious with him, as they should, as he's coming off of that knee surgery. So just to know we're hearing football reports, seeing football practice videos, and knowing that it's right around the corner, even with the bad heat, that's pretty good to start the month of August with that.